Next, Balboa Park was once filled with carnival rides, other amusements, and entertainment. You won't believe it, but there was also a very popular nudist colonist right in the middle of the park. The amusement entertainment district is all gone, but historic photos show us what it all looked like then. Balboa Park is one of the most popular sites in San Diego. During the early days before 1910, it was known as City Park. The idea behind it came from a number of prominent leaders of the day, like Alonzo Horton, George Marston, and John D. Spreckels, who wanted to create an open space for people to enjoy. It was in Spreckels' interest to promote the California-Panama Exposition in 1915 to put San Diego on the national map. A few years later, there was the 1935 California Pacific International Expo. Both would have a fun zone. This was not a parking lot in 1935.
No, this was the center of the Isthmus, the fun zone, where all the rides and the various little exhibits were that were kind of not really the educational, more for fun and playfulness. So
sort of carnival amusement park.
Yeah, very much. They had great lights draped over the top here. It was really a nighttime scene as well as a daytime scene. They had the roller coaster, they had the ostrich farm, and over here was the War of the Worlds exhibit. So it was, really quite a lot of interesting things.
Architect David Marshall and his firm have been part of many restoration projects in Balboa Park. David has a large personal historic photo and postcard collection that shows what the park looked like during the two expos in 1915 and 1935. The exhibits were meant to educate and amuse San Diego visitors. The Fun Zone area, which was called the Zocalo or the Midway, attracted thousands of guests. This wonderful historic 1915 map of David's shows how extensive the Midway became.
It's color-coded here so you can see things nice and clearly. Of course, Cabrillo Bridge and the El Prado with the plaza. But this is where the fun zone was, which, of course, the zoo is in this area now. And this is the zoo parking lot. So this entire area is gone, and it was gone pretty much right after the fair ended.
The Fun Zone certainly had a circus environment for families to enjoy. David says you could spend days visiting the expo, enjoying the amusement center, which had plenty of carnival rides to offer.
Looking north, there's some views. You can see the whole length of the isthmus. All the way at the end was the Panama Canal exhibit.
There was a Japanese garden, a roller coaster, 2 merry-go-rounds, Chinatown, a Ferris wheel, and so much more. But there was one attraction that was quite popular during the 1935 Expo, meant to promote natural life. Although it became one of the most controversial attractions, they couldn't keep spectators away. This looks like a garden, but it actually was something different in the 1930s.
Well, it was a type of a garden, but it was a unique garden. It was it was called Zoro Gardens, and it was where they had the nudist colony in 1935.
Nudist, completely nude?
Well, not completely nude. The women wore G-strings and the men wore these loincloths. Despite
its controversial nature and constant complaints from certain community groups, the Zoro Garden nudist colonist would stay open throughout the 1935 Expo and be financially successful.
They put on these little shows, almost pseudo-religious shows to the sun god, and they had a queen, and they had, it was very, they tried to make it seem like it was some cultural thing, but it really was just a bunch of people that didn't mind taking their clothes off and prancing around in front of onlookers.
Many of the attractions had already appeared at the Chicago World's Fair in 1933 and were brought to Balboa Park a few months later, like Midget Village, with more than 100 Lilliputians performing for curious spectators. At one point, it was called the Mickey Mouse Circus, where performers had tea with an elephant. David tells me the exhibit has a strong Hollywood connection that few know.
I actually had a lot of the names of the people that were in Midget Village, and I looked them up, and sure enough, they showed up in the credits of Wizard of Oz.
Another controversial exhibit at the expo was Ripley's Believe It or Not, where unusual and bizarre items and people were put on display for visitors to view. The exhibit may have been banned from the 1935 expo, but its popularity continued. And there were other expo exhibits that were visitor favorites.
This was a deep-sea aquarium. You could see they have Neptune up here, and they have octopus, but it was exotic sea animals you could see. This is one of the more fun ones. This is the Kilauea volcano as part of the Hawaii Old and New exhibit, supposedly with hula dancers and the whole bit. They did have the Ferris wheel, a rather small one by Chicago standards, but it was there. And then they had the ostrich farm, the gem mine, another ride.
If you can imagine, guests could also enjoy a gold mining town where people could pan for gold. And there was a stagecoach ride that went through this area of Balboa Park. David says it's like something you would see at Knott's Berry Farm today.
Both expos had kind of a mining, Old West mining town. It was more elaborate in 1935. In fact, down in this canyon here, they had what they called Gold Gulch, which was an Old West mining town, which they called movified, which it was their admission that it wasn't really genuine. It was more what people saw in the movies.
The two expos were a great financial success, so much so many of the temporary Spanish colonial-style buildings were reconstructed as permanent structures, and they, of course, are in use today. While the Midway, or Zocalo, may be gone, no, it was once a major fun and cultural attraction for visitors to enjoy and learn about San Diego.
It had a lot of overlap with the types of things you'd see in a circus, but of course the expo, they were trying to make it more sophisticated and a little more educational, and they really didn't highlight the Isthmus or the fun zone parts very much. That was kind of a sidelight that people knew about, but they were really trying to bring people in to learn about agriculture and to learn about, the city and the counties, and technologies as well.
There is so much to learn in Balboa Park. David has written a book about it, using his collection of historic postcards to tell the park's story. Another fun fact that few people know about, most of the exotic animals from the 1915 Expo had nowhere to go, and thus helped create the Zoological Society and the San Diego Zoo.